Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I am your host, Paul Krieger, and I'm joined this week by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger,
Hello.
DVC fan, contributor, and moderator, Ryan Chung,
Hi.
a very familiar face to anyone that's been around the DVC fan community for a while, Lauren Dela Cruz,
Hello.
and rum swizzle extraordinaire and frequent Surrey bike rider, Jeff Haslam.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. A little bit of a different setup and a little bit of a different crew, but we're so happy to have a lot of new voices here on the show. This and all of our content over at DVC Fan is brought to you by the world of DVC. So please show some love for our sponsors, DVC Resale Market, if you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract, Monera Financial, who can help you with that contract purchase, and the DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, or rent out your own points. And this is not our normal studio setup, is it?
No, we're in our house, but it's not the first time.
Not the first time, so you've probably seen this backdrop a little bit before. We've got dogs on both sides of us, but just some quick housekeeping before we get started. We are actively looking for a new studio setup for the DVC show, but as with anything, that kind of takes some time. So we're going to film some shows like this for a little while. And also, we're going to have some virtual guests on, because that's a big piece of feedback that we've gotten from the DVC community over the past few months is, let's inject some new voices into the content. How about someone that's not an Orlando local? How about some people that have kids? And we've got multiple of those people with us tonight. That being said, be sure that you're also subscribed to our DVC Fan YouTube channel if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, and you're following us over at dvcfan.com. We've got new and exciting content going up. We've got actually a secondary video that goes up on Thursdays now, from dining reviews to, various different things that we're doing out and about at the DVC resorts, at the parks, and all of that kind of fun stuff. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you head over to dvcfan.com or the DVC Fan YouTube channel and follow along with all of that content. But we've invited some of our best friends and some familiar faces in the DVC community to sort of join us these next few weeks and talk about some fun topics. And so thank you all for sort of joining us. And I thought you all are familiar kind of in the group if people are engaged and active and all of that. But at the same time, for some people that might be listening, this might be a new voice or something. So thought we'd give you all just a brief opportunity to sort of introduce yourself. So Ryan, we'll sort of kick things off with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you own Disney Vacation Club, and maybe what your favorite Disney park is.
Yeah, hi. I'm Ryan Chung. I live in Northern Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. I have two kids, Amelia, who's 10, and Nathan, who's 7, who you may see in an upcoming show on Food and Wine. I joined DVC in 2019. I bought Bay Lake Tower sight unseen, and like most people, I got anonitis, and I ended up buying Bay Lake Tower resale points and then Beach Club Villas shortly after. And then more recently, I bought points at Grand Californian and Grand Floridian. My favorite park would have to be Hollywood Studios, because I'm a big Star Wars fan. If you couldn't tell already by some of the things I have in the background, love Galaxy's Edge, love Rise of the Resistance, and Smuggler's Run.
I'm just kind of waiting for Grogu to move or do something to you in the background. Is that
Use the
like
Force, right?
Is that one of the animated ones, or is it just like?
No, it's actually just a life-sized statue, so it doesn't actually move or anything.
That's awesome. And I know Ryan mentioned, his daughter Amelia. We actually got to meet up with him at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. We got to meet all of these people at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival recently, and Amelia took to camera just like she was a YouTube professional for years. And it was wonderful, because if anyone's going to give you an honest opinion of a pickle milkshake, it's going to be a kid.
Yeah, I thought she was great. Especially we went to Germany and she reviewed the bratwurst. So just be on the lookout for that, because that video is going to be coming out soon. We got to try just a lot of stuff at the festival since there were so many of us. but it was just a really good time.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I know we'll be seeing a lot more of you. As I mentioned at the beginning, at the top of the show, this next person should not be much of a surprise to anyone. Lauren Dela Cruz. Lauren, you've been with us kind of since the beginning of DVC Fan, I think.
Yeah, almost. Because I also joined DVC in 2019 and I found DVC Fan as I was trying to figure out, is this right for us? So we bought into the boardwalk first. And like Ryan, we had adenitis. So we have two other home resorts, Bay Lake Tower and the Grand Floridian. And we tend to visit from New York about 4 to 5 times a year. But our trips are a little bit different now because we are now a family of 3 and I have a 7-month-old son. So things are changing, but they're fantastic trips and more memories to come.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. And if you've not had an opportunity to do so, Lauren writes some amazing content both on DVC Fan and across the world of DVC brands. So be sure to read some of that. Excellent writer, and so happy to just have her on board as part of the team here. And then you've seen him probably a week or so ago sweating and riding his way around Saratoga Springs or eating questionable food at the Turf Club restaurant. It's Jeff Haslam. Jeff, how we doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me, you guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. No, I have been a member since late 2019 and into early 2020. I own at Old Key West 4 times, actually. I bought Sight Unseen and then kept adding on Sight Unseen until we actually got here. And then so it was after we got here that I added my direct contract. But yeah, I own 4 Old Key West contracts. I'm a super fan. So, and then as far as my favorite park, it's honestly whatever park I'm in. I feel like I love Disney and I love being in the parks. And so any chance I have to go, I go.
So just Disney, no Peppa Pig Land or anything like that?
Not yet. You haven't invited me.
and Jeff is a recent Florida local, and I feel like you can tell by some of the boxes still around him that he's still kind of moving in.
Yeah,
slowly but surely. Well, thank you all for joining us today. It's great to just have some new voices on the show and be able to inject a lot of that vibe of, non-locals, people with families, new families like Lauren. And we're just so excited to begin to share more of these member stories and member perspectives and get some new thoughts as it comes to Disney Vacation Club. And we thought that there was no better way to start that conversation than to talk about some planning tips for your Disney Vacation Club vacation or the trip that you're going to take to that Disney Vacation Club property, because for each person it looks a little bit different. For us as Florida locals, it looks a little bit different than it did 2 years ago when we were flying from Pittsburgh multiple times a year. So it kind of is something that each person has their own little quirks or their own little ways of doing it. And I think there's a lot that all of us can learn. I know I've heard some of the tips that these people are going to share with us today, and some of them are ones that I'm going to add to my repertoire already. So we're just going to kind of go around the room and talk about what are some of our best planning tips for a Disney Vacation Club vacation, whether it be down here to Orlando, Alani, Hilton Head, Vero Beach, or any vacation for that matter. I think these are some great planning tips in general. Ryan, we'll kick things off with you. Why don't you give us one of your planning tips?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, right, if you're traveling, you're not local, especially if you're traveling a lot to, Walt Disney World or any of the DVC resorts, is packing, right? I always end up forgetting something along the way. And so what I learned to do is, instead of trying to always pack all the necessities, I keep duplicates of everything. So I have a Ziploc bag full of liquids. So things like toothpaste, shampoo, all of that stuff ready to go just in a Ziploc bag. And then I'll have another Ziploc bag with things like toothbrush, all the necessities. So that way, when I go to pack, I don't actually need to go and grab all the actual things that I need, that I use day to day. I just grab the kind of go bag, so to speak. And then inevitably I don't forget anything. At some point, you run out and you might have to refill. And so you may need to make a note for yourself that when you get back home, they need to refill that travel size toothpaste or refill the shampoo bottle or something like that. But at least I know, hey, I've got all the stuff that I need, and I don't have to worry about, oh man, I forgot something that's really important.
I think that a lot of members also use the owner's lockers. And so, for larger things, obviously, that you might not want to pack or anything like that. But I think that's also, a way to kind of have some duplicates and even save some room in your luggage that, you know what I mean? So that you have more room for souvenirs, I guess.
Yeah, Jeff, I think that was on your list, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm a big proponent of owner's lockers. So we found out fast that as much as we were coming down here from Utah, those lockers are huge. They're big giant bins that just can stay down here. And so we ended up with two. And one of them is just all of our, like Ryan was saying, our toiletries. We have extra toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, conditioner, laundry detergent, fabric softener, all the stuff to do laundry that you could ever need, as well as extra chargers for our phones, portable battery chargers, umbrellas, ponchos, anything that we don't want to pack every single time we just leave here, or we did until we got here. And even now that I live here, I've gone ahead and bought my owner's lockers from Owner's Locker, and they're just in my garage, all with the same stuff. So if we ever need a one-night stay, the Owner's Locker goes in the trunk and away we go.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So you can legit just buy it full of all your stuff when you're done?
Yeah, so it depends. The longer you have it, the less you have to pay for it. So if you make it to the 5-year mark, they just give it to you. But if you have it for less than that, there's like a set fee. I think it was $25 per bin or something.
There you go. That's something that I can say we've never actually looked into an owner's locker. I imagine if we had stayed up north for a while longer, maybe it was something that we would eventually do. But
yeah, I think a big part of it for us was that we stay in studios. And so a lot of people who love owner's lockers, typically people, not that it can't be for someone who stays in a studio, but typically a lot of them are people that stay in 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, that have kitchens, that want certain, sometimes appliances and larger items like that in their owner's locker. But it's still a great idea to keep, certain clothing items, toiletries, and things like that. We've never used it, so it's neat to hear from someone and how it benefits you.
Yeah. Lauren, how about one of your planning tips for a DVC vacation?
Sure. So I'm a super planner here. I like to start when the point charts come out, and I'm big on spreadsheet planning. So I will take the point charts and start plotting out all the trips for the year, and I'll overestimate by picking whatever is the higher point category or whatever would have more availability for studios in our case. And then it helps me kind of plot out when I need to set my alarm for that 11-month mark booking. And once I have my trips actually reserved, then I go back, put in whatever the actual point amount was, and it becomes kind of my point tracking spreadsheet. So I know which trips used how many points, which ones had banked or borrowed points, because honestly, I don't know about you guys, but looking on the DVC website, I know there's a log that keeps track of how you used your points, but it is really confusing to follow. So I like keeping my own little spreadsheet to track all of that. And I keep it pretty simple. It's just easier for me to look at. I'm no big Excel whiz here, but that's how I kind of tackle my trips for the year, especially once we had more than one contract. That's when I started doing this.
Yeah, we have people all the time that are sort of like, hey, what kind of spreadsheets can you share with us regarding planning for Disney Vacation Club or even buying Disney Vacation Club? And I've never found a way where the same two people have done it the same way. It's like every single person has their own different planning technique. Ryan's nodding his head. I'm sure he's got his own spreadsheet and charts out there.
I don't have a spreadsheet for planning points, which is probably something that I should do. Listening to Lauren and with how many contracts I have, I think that's probably a good idea to do something. But I know exactly what you mean when you're talking about spreadsheets for, what is your cost per point when you're buying and stuff like that. You may have seen the blog that I created for Grand California versus Disneyland Hotel and looking at the costs per point. And I've seen many, many different ways to do that. So you're absolutely right with the spreadsheets. Everybody has their own little way of doing it.
Yep, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if you're in the DVC fan Facebook group, there is up in the top, like the bar at the top, if you kind of move it over, there's a files section. And so if there are members of the group who've shared certain spreadsheets or different types of files like that that are helpful, you'll find a lot of those there. I know that at one point, David, who he's no longer on Facebook, but he used to be a big member of the group, but he took one of my list, which was basically a list of every dining location at Disney World, because Paul and I try to check them all off. Our goal is to eventually have tried and eaten everywhere, even though we go back to multiple ones. But that is one of the files. But there's also multiple others that have been shared that could help you with planning.
I don't know if I really have too many planning tips. I just enjoyed certain things around planning. And I know I brought this up when we were talking about planning for this show, but one thing that we still do when we go on any vacation is make a target run, probably about a week before we go on that trip. And for me, there's like no vacation is real until we've actually done this target run. And it makes absolutely no sense. It's just like grabbing some of those random things like shampoo or snacks or Disney gift cards or you name it, like any of those small little necessities that you might need for the trip.
It's just part of the excitement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're going to Target. We're getting ready for our trip.
But yeah, I feel like that's something great for any family to have, like something that's like that right before you're going on vacation. It's finally real. Like it's almost here. Like that vacation is definitely going to happen. Any of you else do anything crazy like that? Or am I just a weirdo?
I don't do a Target run, but I definitely do schedule my Instacart delivery for when I get to the resorts, because we're snackers and we're drinkers, and so I like to have all that stuff ready and waiting for me. In fact, I'm usually doing it at the airport on my way here, so that it's ready for me to pick up at Bell Services when I land. So I get it. I get the shopping.
Does Instacart, do they deliver rum swizzles or whatever
They
they're
deliver
called?
all the ingredients, but you have to swizzle it yourself.
Yeah, and there was recently actually news that was out that I think Bell Services is no longer going to hold liquor or hold alcohol.
Yeah, that's actually been around for a while. I'm not sure why that's new to a lot of people. I've always had to sign for my alcohol with who I use, so I think maybe some people would deliver it, but I've always had to sign for it. So
just depends if you get the guy that knows you like rum swizzles, I guess. So
right.
Well, Lauren, give us another one of your tips for traveling when it comes to a DVC vacation.
Sure. So my means of not forgetting what we need is to keep just a running packing list. I like using the Notes app on my phone, and I just keep a running checklist of whatever items it is that we end up taking with us from trip to trip. I'll just kind of check off as I continue packing, and then when it comes to changes for seasonal items, I'll adjust my list a little bit. And then I realized my list has been changing a lot between our last trip and this next one because of my son. So not only is it different traveling with him, but even from his first trip when he was 5 months old and he only had bottles, it was pretty straightforward. I got to think about purees and some solid foods for him this next trip. So throwing in some other items this time. So I'm tweaking that list a little bit.
We use that too. We have a running list on our notes. Paul and I each have a separate one. I love that idea because, if you think of something, even if it's just, at a random time, you just add it, to your notes. And then we separate out by, is it a Disney World trip? Here are the things that we need for that, Magic Band or, whatever else. Is it a cruise? Don't forget your lanyard. Of course, now they have Magic Bands, but there's individual things. Is it winter? Don't forget your gloves and your scarves, and you know what I mean. So I love that idea of having this running list on your notes on your phone. You can add to it. You can use it over and over and over, and that it's foolproof. You travel with it, and if you forget anything, you can make sure that it's there for next time.
You separate your lists?
Yeah, by season and trip type and location.
No, mine's like this hodgepodge mess where I'm bringing swim trunks and winter coats someplace, and I don't really understand why. And then I'm just going through going, I guess I don't need that for this vacation.
Yeah.
So
that's why our lists are separate.
That is definitely why our lists are separate. Ryan, give us your next Disney planning tip.
So one of the things that Amy mentioned was having more room in your luggage for souvenirs. And so one thing that we do sometimes, which I think can be useful if you're not using an owner's locker, let's say, is they sell foldable duffel bags. I know we have one from Samsonite that basically folds up into a really small size. And it works great if you're just trying to throw a bunch of clothes in there. So let's say you bought a bunch of souvenirs, bought a bunch of either t-shirts or toys or anything that you can think of. You could throw that in your actual luggage and then just throw your laundry, whether it's clean or dirty, into that duffel bag and then add a checked luggage. So that was something that we learned to do over time from just traveling all the time and not wanting to pay some crazy overweight fee, because a lot of times the overweight fees for your luggage ends up being more than adding one additional bag.
Yep, we actually just did that for our Alaska cruise that we went on. We rolled up a duffel bag and put it in our luggage to start off with, and then packed it up with extra clothes on the way home that took the weight off of all of the souvenirs that we wanted to come back with.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You're right, Ryan, because paying that overweight charge a lot of times is more than paying for another checked bag. Or if you're flying Southwest and you get a lot of checked bags anyway. So that's usually very helpful.
Yeah, I also have the problem where I somehow acquire a bag no matter wherever I go. Jeff is nodding his head because he's been there for one of these instances. We were on a Disney cruise together, and it was like the second to last day of the cruise. And normally on the first day of the cruise, they offer you these, bags with beer or bags with water. And it makes the most sense to buy this at the beginning of your cruise because you're going to have 4 or 5 days or 7 days to then drink the contents. But for some reason, I don't know, Jeff, it was like peer pressure combined with I just wanted the bag and I was going to pay $15, but then the guy was a good salesman and I came home with a bag and I think it was like 6 Bud Light Limes.
Yep, I have that same bag and it never fails. I've gotten better lately, but it never fails. I have more suitcases in storage because I've had to buy one to bring my stuff home than any one person should. So I get it.
Yeah, and we're gearing up at the moment for the DVC member cruise that's coming up the 1st of September. So we are definitely going to take this tip and pack an extra bag because apparently there's all kinds of swag and souvenirs that you come home with. So we'll definitely be sharing all of that over on DVC Fan. But Jeff, give us another tip.
One of my things, and this is just something I started doing recently, is, I'm a spreadsheet person too. Wow, that's really hard to say. A spreadsheet person too. And, but I'm more about what parks I'm going to be at what days and my dining reservations and kind of mapping that out. And I mean, I know park reservations are kind of ebbing and flowing right now, but still, I always pick my dining first and make my park reservations based on what dining I get. I know it took me a long time to learn that, and maybe I'm just slow to the trough here, but to have to do that, and if you get your park reservations all laid out and then your ADRs don't line up, your dining reservations, then you have to go back and alter your park reservations, and it's a whole thing. So I've gotten in the habit of deciding where I want to eat first, planning that, and then letting everything else kind of fall into place.
Yeah, because the food is what matters. No, but really, with the park reservations, we're even starting to see, certain groups don't even have to book park reservations anymore, and so it seems like they're sticking around for some of us, but not everybody. But anymore, it's not impossible most of the time to get a park reservation. So if you know where you want to eat and you can get in to where you want to eat, especially if it's a harder location to get into, then yeah, I completely agree with that. Book your dining first and then everything else can work around it.
And I've met personally everyone on this call today, and they are all foodies at heart. Don't let any one of them fool you. So I feel like we can all be in agreement with those sort of planning tips. Amy, any other thoughts or planning tips that you had in mind?
Oh gosh, I had the same things down that Lauren said, talking about the running packing list. But other than that, I mean, we are not as good of planners, I'm realizing, as they are. Like Lauren's spreadsheet of her points and when to use them, and we just kind of get on and grab points from wherever we can find them. So I think we need to.
What's going on in this account today? I have no idea. Ryan, anything else on your list that we've missed so far?
You know, the one thing you mentioned was Disney gift cards, about going to Target. And, you know, one of the things when you're planning a trip, obviously you're going to be probably spending a lot of money at Disney, especially if you're doing those advanced dining reservations. You know, you're going to be paying for food, you're probably going to be buying merch. You can get a lot of Disney gift cards discounted. And the easiest one that most people probably know about is going to Target, using your Target red card and getting 5% off the face value of a Disney gift card. So you could buy, you know, I think in denominations as large as $500, and you get 5% off. So that's not a bad deal. But, you know, Disboards actually has a thread in the budget board specifically for gift cards. And you can often find deals for 10, sometimes 15, or maybe even rarely, but sometimes as much as 20% off face value.
Wow.
And so that's another great one. If you're planning a trip, you know, if you have a trip coming up and you want to save a little bit of money here and there, buy those Disney gift cards before you get to the parks.
Yeah, we're guilty of that as well in terms of, I know when it comes to annual dues time every year, I'm always doing the Target red card deal to get those dues paid for. And just like everything else, I think there are the people out there that sort of comb out those Disney gift card gains a little bit better than we do. And there are some amazing deals to be had. I know Best Buy occasionally has some special deals. You know, you can stack different deals with different credit cards and all of that kind of fun stuff. So, you know, definitely something to think about. And if you've got it, they're never going to expire. And you're always going to go back to Disney. So,
Yeah, it's just a great way to budget. You know, here's the gift cards. This is what we're spending on snacks, and this is what we're spending on souvenirs, and this is what we're spending on, you know, dining. And also, it just makes your trip almost feel like it's kind of inclusive, right? Like you prepaid for all these things. So I love that idea, and I love utilizing the discounts that are available to kind of save some money that way.
Wait, people actually go to Disney and have a budget? That's
yeah, my credit card needs to figure that one out. So, Lauren, what's another Disney planning tip that you've got?
So I like doing split stays and have done that since kind of the beginning of our membership even, but a new way that I've been doing split stays lately is combining studios and one bedrooms. Now that we have our son coming along, and it is truly convenient to have the one bedroom, have that washer dryer and have the full kitchen, but I like to really stretch out my points. So what I did for his first trip is I had a Bay Lake Deluxe Studio on the first half of our trip, and then we moved over to a Boardwalk one bedroom at the end of the trip. So I used the washer dryer at the end of the trip, did all our laundry before we went home, used all the amenities, enjoyed the space. It was nice to have a little bit of, you know, both worlds. You get to save your points, but you get a little bit of amenities too.
That's the right order to do the studio and one bedroom, because I do that occasionally, except a couple of times I did it the wrong way and did a one bedroom and then a studio, and then you end up with a bunch of dirty laundry at the end that you're taking home.
That, and you just feel sad going from a big room to like, we made that mistake a while back. We booked, remember we had Old Key West one bedroom, and then we're like, oh, we have to go to a tower studio tomorrow. Like a huge like house to a closet. So yeah, that is definitely the right order. I always said that we would never, ever, ever do laundry on vacation. And then we stayed in our first one bedroom, and it was like, I can take home clean clothes. And so, yeah, I love that. We utilize that same tip, Lauren, when we went to Alani and we came back to Disney. We did one night because we are very cheap with our points, but one night at a Saratoga one bedroom, did all of our laundry kind of mid trip. And then we moved on to a studio. We should have done it the other way, but yeah, I love that idea.
We've even resorted to, if we fly home to visit family, it's like, hey, will you guys do our laundry, or can we do laundry? We'd like to We like to fly home with some.
We don't ask our family to do our laundry, but we have done our laundry there. And Paul's mom does like to do clothes.
She
we let
loves
her.
doing laundry. It's a gene that was not passed forward on to me. That is for sure. But yeah, she's very generous and ends up folding our clothes for us sometimes. So thanks, Mom. Jeff, give us another DVC planning tip.
This goes to making the most of your DVC membership. You know, I'm one that likes to try new things, and since I started doing DVC, I found myself spending less and less time in the parks. I mean, I still love the parks; they're still my favorite, as I mentioned earlier. But trying to find something new, trying to plan something that you haven't done before on every trip, and there's plenty to do that you'll probably never run out of things to do. But you know, last week I went scuba diving at Epcot. The week before, you know, we were doing Surrey bike stuff. Like it's stuff that I've just never done, and it's add kind of a whole new level to how I use that membership and how I use my points. And so I'm really looking forward, now that I'm a local, that I can do a lot of these things that I probably would have never done before. So step outside your box and find something new.
Yeah, and DVC really brings that ability to you. You know, it's something where still, even us, we're finding new things to do. One of the big things is and I know, Lauren, you've done some of these around the resorts, some of the specialty crafts that they have, and some of the kind of the fun things that they have that you kind of don't think about. So it's like, spend that time at the resort. Lauren, what's one of the funner, you know, crafts or things like that you've done at the resorts?
I did the Paint Your Disney Story over at the Grand Floridian, and it was basically a ceramic painting activity that they had at Enchanted Rose. I think it's since moved to the where they used to have the afternoon tea. But basically, you get to paint this little ceramic book that is a box that you can open, and you have all these stencils, different paints to work with, and then they glaze it for you, and you pick it up like the next day. And I kept mine, and it's out on display in our living room. I thought it was a fun little keepsake.
Yeah, I keep eyeing up the one at Wilderness Lodge. I think it's done in Reunion Station, and they actually pair it with a lunch and a drink, or snacks and a drink. But you get to make this. Basically, it's almost like a charcuterie board or a platter or a tray.
Oh yeah, it looks so cool.
It looks so cool. You've got like 4 different logos that you can choose from. They've got a special one for the 100th that's going on right now. You can choose a Disney Vacation Club logo. My personal favorite is that Wilderness Lodge logo that you can actually then just paint onto the board, and it just never aligns with our trip. So we're gonna have to like start planning days at the parks that align with whatever day that they're doing it, because it's always like a Tuesday or a Thursday or something like that. But
yeah, there's so many things to do, and you're right, like being a DVC member, you get to kind of slow down. It doesn't have to be, you know, in the parks 24/7 and explore all those things. Fort Wilderness has a ton of stuff, and that's why I'm excited for that to be a DVC resort, because they've got archery and canoeing and just all kinds of, you know, horseback riding and different things. We went over there a few weeks ago and checked out, I always say the order wrong. Is it Tri-D Circle Ranch?
sure,
Tri-Circle D Ranch?
I'll go with either of those.
One of those.
I'll accept either answer.
Anyway, they've just got, you know, it's just so cool just to be able to go over there and look around. And we met a really cool cast member, and he showed us around a little bit more. But there's so much to branch out and experience. And I still want to do Sangria University over at Coronado Springs, but so many really awesome things to just finally try doing, you know, since you're a DVC member and you know you get to come back, and so maybe it doesn't have to be in the parks all the time.
Ryan, you mentioned savings earlier, and that was another one that was on my list, but kind of getting here or getting to wherever you're going, specifically with Southwest. That's been who we've primarily flown, especially from Pittsburgh down to the Orlando or Tampa area. And that just makes me think very quickly to say, if you are coming, make sure you look at Tampa and or Orlando, especially if you're renting a car, because you can get some decent direct flights into Tampa that sometimes can be a little bit cheaper. And trust me when I tell you that airport is so lovely and so much easier to navigate than MCO is these days. It is just a zoo anytime I go to Orlando International Airport anymore. And Tampa is just a breath of fresh air, so chill, very easy to just get through security and then get to your gate. So, but going back to Southwest, something that, if you are a planner and you are a saver, whenever you've booked your flights, once a week or maybe a couple of times a week, just go back on and modify the flight, refresh, and see if potentially that rate has changed. Because if it has, they'll give you that amount back in a future credit that you can then use for another flight down the road. And it's always just something that we've saved a bunch of money. Southwest just randomly drops the bottom out of flight prices here and there. They're always kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's not just Southwest that does that, right? I know United has that where if you cancel the flight, you get a future flight credit, and you can cancel the flight and immediately rebook the exact same flight if the price has gone down. So absolutely, that's a great tip to be able to save a little bit of money on flying down to Orlando. I know for Tampa, we did the exact same thing as well. We flew during the week before Easter, which is spring break up here in the Northeast. And we were able to save a significant amount of money flying into Tampa. And then we went to Busch Gardens, Tampa, for one day before we came over to Orlando.
Yeah, that's a great idea to go to Busch Gardens and just kind of break up that, because if you do fly into Tampa, you are going to have a little bit more, obviously more of a drive to Disney than if you fly into Orlando. But if the cost savings is worth it, you could break that up by stopping and going to Busch Gardens, and staying overnight around there and then coming to Orlando the next day, or even, staying somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of really great things to do in Central Florida. Aside from Disney, I know, primarily most everyone's going to be going to Disney that's watching this show, but even just to kind of, break the trip up a little bit.
Any other DVC planning tips that we've missed, or any other thoughts?
I had one quick one, which was similar. If you couldn't tell by now, we love Ziploc bags. But, one thing that we do instead of just packing all of your clothes in, randomly, which way, we started packing our clothes by day, which sounds kind of weird, but it helps you if you're planning, especially for a family, if you plan, all of Monday's clothes in one bag, all of Tuesday's clothes in one bag, and we separate everything into, big Ziploc bags. Then when you're unpacking, it makes it a little bit easier to find everything that you need. If you're planning in advance and let's say you want to wear matching shirts, or you want to wear a shirt that is for that particular park, or whatever park you're going to, you know exactly what you have. So if you are trying to plan out what you're going to wear, that's one way of doing that makes it a little bit easier, so it's less chaotic in the morning when you're trying to make rope drop, let's say.
I feel like that would help you avoid overpacking as well, which is, I think, our biggest flaw in the Krieger house.
I use Ryan's idea. I just use packing blocks instead of Ziploc bags, so they each hold a lot more.
But if it's a 7-day vacation, the Krieger house plans for a 30-day vacation. Because you just never know when emergencies are going to happen, and you're going to need
30 pairs of underwear. You just don't know. Like anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
My girlfriend always says it's not about that; it's more about having options. She overpacks as well, and 17 tank tops for one day because you don't know what color you want to wear.
Yeah. See, Amy's really smart. It's probably because her name is Amy also. But yeah, you just don't know what you're feeling and that day, or what the temperature is going to be, or you got to have options.
It's going to be hot. That's
in Florida. It's going to be hot.
In Florida, it's always going to be hot.
Oh yes, sure. Which also, that is another planning tip if you are coming to Disney. Basically, May, June, July, August, September. Bring things to keep yourself cool, like cooling towels. I don't know, even those fans. If you're not used to the heat, water bottles. Something refillable that you can take in the parks and have fill up somewhere. Just anything, light colors, anything that's going to keep you cool. because it is very hot, and it's been like especially hot and humid this year. This is our second summer living in Florida, and I just feel like it's hotter here this year than what it was last year. I don't know.
Yeah, it warrants those extra tank tops and everything with how the heat has been this year.
Right, and you need all those extra clothes so that when you're sweaty, you can have fresh clothes.
Or a one bedroom so that you can do all the laundry.
No such thing as overpacking. Being more prepared is what it's called.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this week's episode. I think I hope that those of you listening or watching just take away one of these options as something new or something that you can add to your repertoire as to how you plan for your DVC or your Disney vacation. Please share with us also in the comments some additional ones, because just like us, we've learned some new ones today ourselves, and I'm sure that you all have some great ideas as well. So put them in the comments of our YouTube channel or join the conversation over in the DVC Fan Facebook group, where I'm sure we'll be talking about these things as well. Thank you guys for joining us this week, and we'll be having you on again very soon. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC Show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next time.